Hello again to another Agricolor Reaction. Today we will be watching the final part of How Islam Saved Western Civilization from the Austin School, and it's a talk by Dr. Roy Casagranda, and I really enjoyed it, and I definitely gonna watch something else with him. Someone already did recommend something else to me, but I might do it some other time, because I actually checked what else they have, and something caught my eye. But I'm thinking about doing it a bit differently. Instead of recording it every 2 weeks like I'm doing it now, I just gonna sit down one day and I watch all of it, but I just gonna split this, like put the timer on my watch for like whatever like 20 minutes or something like that, and every 20 minutes I just gonna finish up, and then I'll be doing like a one episode from every 20 minutes and then record straight away another reaction. So I'm actually kind of know what happened in the previous episode, if you know what I mean, because I'm kind of watching, like I was watching it now, and basically like I know what he was talking in general, but sometimes he mentioned something and I'm like, did he say that? Was there something? I'm kind of confused now what's happening, because I don't remember what he said those 6 weeks ago. So yeah, things like that. And so I think we were on the 1 hour 55 minutes, so I'm now actually forwarded to 1 hour 54 minutes. So we can just jump into it and be watching the final, 20 minutes? Yeah, and then I'll see. In next week gonna be another Ottoman Empire playlist reaction, and there's still a few videos from that left, so that will be keep going. I think I might just do something different for next few weeks, in 2 weeks time after this one, and then I just decide what else I want to do and what I want to watch, because it's definitely something that I'm kind of really interested to watch from his talk. So I find him a really interesting person, really informative, really entertaining as well. So yeah, I think let's just jump into it and just see how he's gonna end, because yeah.
To Emperor Zeno, the Eastern Roman Emperor, and said there's no reason for two emperors. Let's just do one. You're it. I abdicate. Okay. That's not the same as Rome fell. On May 29, 1453, Ottoman soldiers entered Constantinople, the Roman capital, and captured it. And Rome ceased to own any real estate. That's when a state falls, is when it doesn't own real estate. That's how I know Rome didn't fall that moment.
That actually was if you watched, not last week because that was Christmas stuff. 2 weeks ago was actually how the Ottoman became popes of Rome. And that's when I learned that actually Rome means Rome. So this is what he's talking about as well, isn't it?
But what we are told is that the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, the medieval period starts with the fall of Rome in 476 and doesn't end.
Sorry? No, it's not, because this is 4 something, and the Ottoman Empire civilization is dealing with 1300s, so 1,000 years later. I'm really terrible with dates and all that. Sorry.
Until sometime around 1492, that it lasts 1,000 years. There's 1,000 years without knowledge. But I just showed you that there was actually extraordinary developments that were taking place, including calculus 600 years before Newton. Ibn al-Haytham stated Newton's first law of motion 600 years before Newton. He actually described Kepler's first law of planetary motion 500 years before Kepler. I was working on my graduate degree. I started to get into Heidegger, who is very controversial, but that doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater. He was a Nazi for 11 months. Bad Heidegger. Bad. He denounced the Nazi party after 11 months and said, "You're all a bunch of charlatans, I reject you." And then he spent the rest of World War II as an outcast. But still, that 11 months was gross. He got his professor fired and then took his job. His professor was a guy named Husserl. He was Jewish. I'm doing this because I just don't want anybody to be confused about why I'm reading Heidegger. I'm reading Heidegger, and I realized something in his bibliography. He's quoting Ibn al-Haytham and Ibn Sina. And at the time, I didn't know who they were, so I went, who are these guys? when he was quoting Ibn Sina, the reason he was quoting Ibn Sina is because his teacher, Husserl, who, by the way, was brilliant, and he shouldn't have fired him. He's ugly. Husserl had taken Hegel and Ibn Sina and merged them and created a new branch of philosophy called phenomenology. So when Heidegger was taking his thing on being in time to the next level, he was building off of that. And then, of course,
Yeah, so we're in a strong start here now. So someone could be a Nazi just for 11 months. How did that work, by the way? Because, how was... Yeah, okay, no, this is a long ad, so... What I was saying? Oh yeah, so how did that work? I didn't know you can just like, ooh, like, yeah, I don't like you anymore, I'm just gonna, be out. So I'm guessing he must have left the country, or, well, because I'm just kind of curious now. I wish he could kind of elaborate on that. Anyway, this ad is almost 3 minutes long, and that's just the number one, so I should be checking out my phone because I haven't really checked it in a long time while I'm watching this, and I'm just gonna be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. So, ads were quite long, so I kind of checked out some stuff on my phone, and while the ad was playing, I really have to learn how the ads work, because although they do give me nice breaks for just talking, without me, like needing to like stop every time and video and stuff like that. So it's kind of good and bad at the same time. So let's just get back to the Roy Casagrande.
That became the moment when philosophy in the world completely changed. Everybody who hates Heidegger is still a Heideggerian. There's no going back. Heidegger changed philosophy. He grabbed it, he shook it, he flipped it upside down, and he redid it. But part of his inspiration for this was that conversation I had with you earlier about Ibn Sina and the nature of the universe. He took and built on that and then changed philosophy forever. So even though the guy was a 1,000-year-old thinker, he was still playing a major role 100 years ago in changing the way we do philosophy. In other words, there's no separation between any of this. It's all connected together. One last thing. So the Arabs had idiomatically translated Aristotle into Arabic. When the Spanish were conquering Spain from the Muslims, they kept encountering libraries. The popes kept issuing edicts to burn all the books, just like when they had burnt the Great Library and just when they shut down the Academy of Athens. They wanted to continue.
Don't you see a bit of a pattern here? Most of the time when the books and knowledge and stuff was being destroyed is from Christian hands, not Muslim. Muslim were actually spreading the information, the books, and everything like that. It's just like the disinformation that's being sold to now to all of us is just quite mind-boggling.
The thinking went, you only need one book, it's the Bible, why are we doing this science stuff? We don't need this. What we need to do is purge the libraries of all these books that make me feel uncomfortable. Oh no, that's now. Oh wait, no, that was then too. It's so confusing how nothing changes. We don't learn.
We don't.
Well, the monks who were ordered to destroy the books were the Benedictines and the Dominican monks. The Benedictines and the Dominican monks didn't obey the order.
Interesting.
What they did was they dug giant underground libraries beneath their monasteries. When they would show up to the place with the Muslim library that they had to burn, they would have a guy read. They had a guy who would stand here and they had the book. They would turn the book so it was facing him so he could read it. It was a human card catalog. He knew the lists, the names of all the books they had in their secret underground library. So as you would walk by, he'd read it. If he recognized the book, he'd give you one signal and you'd dump it in a pile in the middle of the town. If he didn't recognize it, he'd give you another signal and you'd walk over to a cart where they had a hidden panel and you'd slide the book into that and then you'd walk back and you'd go grab another book. And then you'd carry it so that that guy could read it. And then, oh, that one goes in this pile. And then afterwards, they'd set that pile on fire so they could show everybody they were burning the books. And then they'd sneak the other books into their underground library where they were busy translating it from Arabic into ancient Greek and Latin. And that's how we have Plato and Aristotle. We would have lost it all because the Christians were going around burning everything.
Yeah.
What happened that was, not only did the Benedictine and the Dominican monks have second thoughts about this and refuse to follow their orders, it's good to not follow orders sometimes. But the Italians went, you know what I miss? The good old days when we had science and math and philosophy. Why don't we do that again? And sometime around 1300, they do the Renaissance. 1300, the Crusades end in 1291. After the Crusaders start coming back, they go, you know what we saw when we were there murdering all those Muslims and Jews? They had indoor plumbing and medicine and crop rotation. They're talking about things have gravity and that light has a finite speed and that the universe originates from a point of information. And the Italians go, oh wow, that's so cool. Let's do that here. Isn't that crazy? All right, let's do Q&A for a few minutes and then we have to go. Absolutely. Okay, so the question is, does the Arabs being in Sicily for 2 centuries have an impact on the creation of the Renaissance? The answer is yeah. There was a guy named Frederick II. He happens to be one of my favorite ever rulers. So the Vikings conquered northern France at one point. They renamed northern France after themselves. They were the Northmen, Norsemen. They renamed it after themselves. They were called the Normans. They call it Normandy. The Normans at some point get really bored. They're like, dude, I'm sick of watching peasants grow things. When was the last? So they're saying it in French, but with a Viking accent, right? Because they stopped speaking German, they started speaking French. So just imagine, you know, like the little thing, I can't do it. Right? Something like that. That means happy birthday. So get that going in your head, but do it in French. Je m'appelle Sven, ja. It must have been horrific for French speakers to hear this. And one day they're just like, you know what, dude, let's go kill somebody. Now, the original killing event, they went to Spain, actually, and they captured Barabbas, which today is Saragossa. It was a Muslim city. They capture it, and they're like, wow, this is awesome. So I need you to have in your head redhead and blonde-head Vikings with long hair and braids and big beards, right? And they're just, you know, they got an axe, they're ready to hack people to death. They get there and they see the Arabs doing philosophy and math and science, and they go, this is so cool. They take off their Viking clothing, they start wearing jalabiyas, and they walk around learning Arabic, and they blend into Arab society in Saragossa, in Spain. Well, word gets back to Normandy, and the Normans are like, man, we could do this on a larger scale. So a group of them get in a ship. They sail all the way around around Spain to Sicily. They get to Sicily. They conquer it.
And we have that. Come on, we're almost at the end there. And there was a Q&A as well, so that's very interesting. And yeah, but like obviously, again, just showing my lack of knowledge, historical knowledge about a lot of things here. Like, yeah, I knew that the Normans are kind of like coming from like Vikings and all that because of Normandy and so that, the Normans. And I didn't know the exact thing about the name, but you know, it's always something new, I guess. So, yeah. And, oh, and that's an old one. A long one, I mean. Okay. Okay, so yeah, basically there was just like, oh, we kind of like the mixing of people all over the world is kind of like inevitable. I think it's just kind of when you look into history that's obviously kind of like happens here, especially with a lot of conflicts and things like that, because people are moving in and they either escape, so the whole family, they don't take part in the actual fights and stuff. They're trying to escape into safer places, and then they settle there, and then they have families. So with that, this is how everything kind of changes and evolves, and like how we become who we are, I think. So and I'm just gonna watch this to the end, and I'm gonna cut this piece here, and I'm gonna be back in a second for you, because they're going. Okay, I'm back after that ad again, and we're almost at the end, so we have only like less than 10 minutes left, so we could just get into it. And this is a Q&A after the actual talk, so he's talking more.
And then they have this really interesting
stuff.
situation, because there's all these Arabic-speaking people living there. There are people who are speaking Italian living there, and they're Christian because they had converted, right? It didn't tone them down yet. They get toned down later, right? They're still little sociopaths. And then little by little they start to marry into German royalty. This is complicated. And eventually there's a guy named Frederick II. If you look at coins from the time period in Sicily, one side is in Arabic, the other side is in Latin. Frederick II actually had a bureaucracy made up of Christians, Jews, and Muslims. And he learned Arabic. He didn't just learn Arabic, he spoke Italian and German and French and I think 2 other languages. The dude was just, is that a polyglot? I forget what there's a polyglot. Anyway, whatever it is, he was that guy. And he would read texts in the original Arabic, and then sometimes he'd translate them in Latin. He even did his own science. He's so in love with the Muslim world that after throwing the Crusaders out, he was approached to see if he wanted the title of King of Jerusalem. And he didn't send an army and conquer it. It was just a symbolic gesture. He eventually will become the Holy Roman Emperor, which means he also owned Italy and Germany. And he's spreading his ideas. He got into falconry, right? The quintessential Arab sport. Like, he's out there with falcons reading original Arabic script, learning how to do this. And it pissed off the popes. He got excommunicated twice. He led an army to Rome twice. He conquered it and captured the pope and cut his head off a couple of times and instituted new popes a couple of times, because all that science-y stuff that he was learning was apparently corrupting his soul. But yeah, it's the same time period. It's that moment when Italy is rethinking, maybe burning the books wasn't a great idea. So you have 2 ways of thinking about this. You can pretend that Islam held on to Western civilization while Western civilization was burning itself to the ground, and then Western civilization just reconstituted itself. Or you can realize the truth, which is that the Arabs were Western civilization all along. Islam didn't necessarily save something that it wasn't. It saved itself. It just took it to a new level. The Arabs weren't doing something that was alien to them. They were part of Western civilization. They even had a Western civilization religion, because Islam is an Abrahamic religion. So they had all these Western civilization traditions. When they conquered that part of Rome and Persia, that was part of Western civilization, that had never stopped being Western civilization. What happened is you were taught it in an Islamophobic way, so all the Muslim parts were just simply deleted. And so now we think of this as an East-West divide, and somehow the Muslims are on the east side of it. They're not. That woman, when she told me Egyptians are Easterners, she's just flat out wrong. This is part of Orientalism. It's an attempt to make you see the world as us versus them. It's not. It's just not. In Texas, for example, we do community property divorce. We got that from Mexico. Mexico's Catholic. It didn't have divorce.
Another ad? Come on, YouTube. I'm trying to remember, like, another thing that's very interesting, isn't it? Like, they didn't have the divorce, but come from Mexico. Yeah, a lot of things actually kind of comes from different countries that you don't really even realize they're coming from it. So, yeah. And I wonder where she's going with that, though. Because he started with questions, someone asking a question, and I don't think he actually... Did he start answering? I don't know. I got confused after he gave so many details and so many information and stuff like that. It's just not that easy to follow through through his way of thinking and his way of thought. Like he is such a person such full of information that it's kind of hard not to be able to actually not listen to his all of the information and stuff. Ooh, this is very unflattered. The green is just not looking good at me. So we'll see. I might just cut here. Oh, wow, that was just one ad. That's surprising. That was strange. Well, they're just gonna keep me on my toes, I guess.
Got it from Spain. Spain is Catholic. Spain didn't have divorce. When the Arabs ruled Spain, they got sick of all the deadbeat husbands. It's just not. In Texas, for example, we do community property divorce. We got that from Mexico. Mexico's Catholic. It didn't have divorce. Mexico got it from Spain. Spain is Catholic. Spain didn't have divorce. When the Arabs ruled Spain, they got sick of all the deadbeat husbands who were divorcing their wives for younger models and then leaving the children to be raised by those divorced wives who no longer had a source of income. So there were all these kids living in the streets. So what they did in Spain was it created a system where all the property generated from the moment of the marriage's start to the moment of the marriage's end got split in half, period, end of story. That's community property law. So, you know, you'll hear this thing that conservatives will say, I'm worried about Sharia law. Well, then don't get divorced. Because that's Muslim law. The taco. When the Spanish conquered Mexico, they said, make this. The thing they were saying to make was shawarma, because the Spanish were Arabs. They were just self-hating Arabs who rejected their Arabness. So they had flatbread food with meat in the middle and then vegetables and a sauce you put on it that they would fold like this. The Aztecs go, we don't have those ingredients. The Spanish go, you're our slaves, we're gonna kill you, make it anyway. So the Mexicans went, fine, and then they made a tortilla and they put meat on it and they did a salsa because they needed the ingredients because they didn't have tahina and they were just stuck. So the next time you're eating tacos, remember that it's actually originally Arab food. It's just a Native American version of Arab food. Al pastor, you're like, that'll work. I'll eat pork. That way I don't have to actually eat Arab food because Arabs don't eat pork. So about a little bit less than 200 years ago, 150 years ago, Arabs started to move to Mexico. Those Arabs wanted to make shawarma. They're like, my God, tacos are basically just shawarma. How did that happen? Because they didn't know the original story. So they're sitting there going, I want to make the shawarma with lamb. I need a fatty meat. There just isn't enough fatty meat in pork. And so the Arab Mexicans, if you've ever been to Mexico and you've eaten al pastor off the thing, it's the shawarma thing, but it's got pork on it. In other words, al pastor is Arab food twice. We're all interconnected. There's no separating any of this out from anything. Our language is like this. Admiral is an Arabic word. Zenith, nadir, algebra, those are all Arabic words. Zero is an Arabic word.
Numbers
is an
are
Arabic word. There's no winning if you really wanted to do this, because there's no separating us out from each other. Okay, so the question is, why did Christianity reject all that philosophy and, set everything on fire at the same time that Muslims were embracing it? I don't think there's a simple answer. I think, there's a historical moment that Christians found themselves in as the Roman Empire was in decline, right? The Roman Empire almost went away in the 3rd century. Diocletian saved it and reconstituted it. By that point, it goes Christian. And then on that, as the Roman Empire goes Christian, it's in a terrible position. Its economy is garbage. The population is poor. The population is small. Rome at one point was 1.5 million people. By the time we get to the 6th century AD, there was about 50,000 Romans living in the city. So Rome itself was diminished. And I think in that moment, there was this sense of, it's hopeless, everything is falling apart around us. let's turn to religion. We'll focus on religion. We'll just try to save our souls. We're not going to worry about the material world. And so I think that was the basis of the rejection, that it came out of a sense of despair. But in the same time, the Muslims were making this brand new empire. They were filled with vigor. They had this new religion. There was hope. There were dreams. They encountered philosophy and they fell in love with it and they ran with it. And so I think there was a little bit of that going on because, right, then Christians go, oh my God, why did we burn all that? And then they bring it back and the next thing you know, Britain conquers 40% of the planet. And so there's this pendulum swing. And I gotta say, I like one end of the swing. I do. I love science. I love things like antibiotics. Antibiotics are wonderful. I love calculus. I think it's a great thing. You should learn it. Physics. Boundless love of physics. When that pendulum comes swinging back the other way and we're setting books on fire and pulling them out of libraries in Texas, it freaks me out. Because I've seen this play before. I've read about it anyway. I was there. And I know how this story ends. And you're not going to like it. You're not. We don't need to do this again. We've done it before. It wasn't great. It wasn't great. Just for the record.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was something that the Nazis did as well, isn't it? How did that end? And in between what was happening. So anyway, I'm very impressed, very thankful for whoever recommended this to me, because that was really good. And I'm definitely gonna check out some other of his talks, because I've seen there's a few that definitely got my attention, and I was actually asked to react to something else by him too. So I'll be doing it, but probably in a bit different format, but I'll still be uploading not long videos, not like a whole at once, but just basically gonna split it into parts and upload them every 2 weeks or something like that, but just gonna record them at once so I can kind of follow and comment of what was there before and things like that, because I'm kind of found that when I was doing this now, I just kind of said, we said about that, but that was in the beginning and I couldn't remember, so anyway, very good, like I said multiple times already, really informative, really entertaining, a really cool person to watch, I think. So thank you very much for watching, and I see you tomorrow. Bye.